Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We start out with meditation first, but then afterwards I'll provide you a talk about some of the teachings of the Buddha. Today we're actually in chapter 14 of our book. It's titled Cultivating Healthy Mental States, Loving Kindness, Compassion, Sympathetic Joy, and Equanimity. This is where the Buddha kind of gets the reputation of being like a doctor, because there's certain symptoms that he noticed in the mind, and then there's a certain prescription or an antidote. But you are your own best doctor. So if you understand what the symptoms are, then you can apply the antidote or the prescription, and it actually remedies your mind. So I'm going to help you guys to understand these 4 healthy mental states, because it's going to remedy certain difficulties in your mind. So if you'd like to join for meditation, I start with some chanting to be able to ease the mind into meditation. This helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It's not a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. If you see those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't his actual teachings. This is actually helping you to just ease into the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. If you'd like to chant along, they're over there on the cabinet. You can actually help yourself to one of the laminated sheets and you'll be able to chant along. For those of you guys online, you can look at our website at buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and from there you can scroll down towards the middle and you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'm going to be guiding you in the meditation. Then there'll be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class. So feel free to make yourself comfortable, either on the floor. We have chairs over there if you'd like. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like, however you're comfortable. Excuse me. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes And start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind has moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. ระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, once again, welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. What I'm going to do is help you guys to understand these 4 healthy mental states that the Buddha taught in order to help you to remedy certain symptoms in your mind. Because it's no fun being angry. It's no fun being jealous. It's no fun having a uncalm mind that's all shaken up. You can actually get to the point where you don't experience these kinds of things in others. So I'm going to help you to understand these 4 healthy mental states: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. As I was sharing, this is where the Buddha gets a reputation, kind of like being a doctor, because you're going to see there are certain symptoms that are in the mind, and then there's a certain prescription that you apply. But you are actually your own best doctor, because if you understand what the symptoms are and you understand the prescription, you can apply that yourself as part of your practice. So I'm going to help you, and this is actually going to help you to be able to then implement this in your day-to-day life and experience real results. As we go, I'm going to pause a couple of times, opening up for questions. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask questions. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowls here. And if you get a microphone, if you press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on. You can hold this up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without the microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question. You can just keep the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comments section, or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like that way. So these 4 healthy mental states are oftentimes referred to as the Brahma-viharas. Where this word comes from is that during the lifetime of the Buddha and prior to that, and even now, There were individuals referred to as Brahmin. These are people that are born into a certain family, and they're considered to be holy. And that's about 15% of society. There is a strong caste system in place during the lifetime of the Buddha. And if you were born into this family, you were able to do rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayers. And the thought was that you were doing this for other people and you were getting paid to be able to do this. And all the other 85% of society were taught that if you were interested in improving your life, you actually couldn't do that on your own. You would need to go to these Brahmin and pay a fee, and then your life was going to get better through this ritual or ceremony that they were going to do for you. Well, the Buddha understood that that's not the way the world actually truly works, but not everybody else understood that. So there was a lot of corruption here, that maybe you would go to the Brahmin and you would say, hey, I'm having trouble with my wife or my husband. I'm having difficulties in my career or with my children. And there'd be a certain ceremony. Maybe it's $5, right? But then you would go home and things wouldn't get better because it was just a ceremony. It was just prayer. It's not going to actually improve your relationships with other people. So then you'll come back 3 weeks later, 6 weeks later. Maybe the problem's gotten worse. Oh, that's a different ceremony. That's a different prayer. That's going to cost you more money now, right? So the Buddha understood that these kinds of things don't actually lead to improvement. So he was teaching people to cultivate the mind, to cultivate wisdom, to be able to make better decisions. That's what's actually going to lead to your improvement in your day-to-day life. But these individuals who were Brahmin, they were actually teaching a certain amount of moral conduct, and they were teaching what's called the Brahma-viharas. The word Brahma means God. The word Vihara, this means to dwell with. So they were teaching these 4, what I refer to as healthy mental states, as if you cultivate these, you will be closer to God. This is what they were teaching. The Buddha didn't teach it that way. He taught it in order to antidote certain symptoms that you have in your mind. But nonetheless, this is where it came from. And the Buddha knew that this was an important part or important component of getting to enlightenment. So that's why he taught it. So if you see this word Brahma-vihara, you understand the history of it. The way that you might think about it is 4 healthy mental states, because this is what's actually going to antidote certain challenges in your mind. So I'm going to explain to you what each one of these mental states are. I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that they're antidoting, and I'm going to explain to you how to cultivate this in your mind so you can apply it and experience improvement. So the first one here is called loving kindness. This is active goodwill towards all beings without judgment, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. This is true love. This is unconditional love, where you have a genuine interest in seeing others be well. But it's important that you understand that it's without judgment, because sometimes people are taught to judge others, and your mind might actually be doing that if you have conceit, where someone might have taught you, don't respect others until they respect you. Well, if everybody was actually practicing that, where you weren't respecting anybody until they respect you, well, nobody's respecting anybody, because you would say, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And then that person would say, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. Okay, everybody's stuck in a logjam and nobody's respecting anybody. Well, if you did that with your love, it wouldn't actually be unconditional love. It's, hey, I'm not going to love you until you love me first, right? So you're not interested in that. That's conditional. You would like to get to the point where you have unconditional love, where this person hasn't done anything to earn your love, so therefore there's nothing they could do for you to fall out of love with them. If you're falling in love and out of love with people right now, or if you think that love is painful and love hurts, that's actually not love. That's not what's causing that. That's what we call craving, desire, attachment, where the mind is longing, yearning, and you can only say you love this person if they do things your way. And if they stop doing things your way, then you don't love them anymore, and you treat them with bitterness and harshness and hostility. That's not actually love. That's not what the Buddha is teaching you. The Buddha is teaching you to get to unconditional love, where you love people unconditionally, where they didn't have to do anything to earn your love, so therefore there's nothing they can do for you to stop loving them. You just love them as they are, unconditionally. So the mind needs to be trained to be able to do this, because what this is going to antidote is your anger, hatred, and ill will, as well as all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike. Right now, if you have dislike towards others, oftentimes the mind thinks that that's coming from other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. Your mind has craving, desire, attachment. Your mind's craving for things to be permanent. And if people do things this way, you like them. But if they do things this way, you don't like them. This is the mind craving permanence, where you live in an impermanent world. There's never going to be a time where everybody does things all the same way. So if you can only love people who do things your way, there's actually only one person in the world that does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself, right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love yourself. And you might actually have trouble doing that from time to time, right? So you would like to get away from that. That's not true love. We might call that conditional love, but there's no such thing as conditional love, because you're having this person to meet certain conditions before you will say you love them. And then you will only function as if you love them as long as those conditions are met. But when they stop meeting those conditions, you will say, I don't love you anymore. And now you will function differently. You will be angry and bitter and harsh towards that person. That's the mind having craving, desire, attachment. That's not what you're interested in. You would like to get to unconditional love, where literally someone could murder your mother and you would still love them, right? You can disagree with the choices and decisions that this person made while still loving the person. Doesn't mean you're interested in inviting them over to your house and having them sit down and have a meal with you or anything like that, but you can have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well, understanding that they are responsible for their own wellness. But as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you'll be hindered from that. You'll have bitterness and harshness and hostility towards this person, and you'll think that it's them that's actually causing that, and you'll actually just walk around with that plaguing your mind, that resentment. Oftentimes people hold on to grudges because they think they're getting back at the other person, where in reality it's just causing harm to your own mind. It's kind of like if you were to hold on to a hot coal and you think you're trying to burn somebody else with that hot coal, the only person getting burned is yourself. So if you hold anger and resentment in your mind, the only person getting burned is yourself. So loving kindness and cultivating this in the mind is going to antidote all that, where you don't have to walk around with the anger and hostility and bitterness, because as long as you keep putting that out in your relationships, that's what's going to come back to you. You need to transform your mind to be more loving and kind. When people experience difficulties in relationships, they oftentimes think the way to solve this is to change the other person. You might have actually noticed this, that maybe you're trying to change other people, but you'll never get to peace and joy and harmony in your relationships by trying to change other people, because you can't actually change other people. You need to actually change your own mind. You need to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. And there's more than just these Brahma-viharas that are going to help you to do that. There's a core central teaching called the Eightfold Path that you would need to learn, and that's where people really start. This is chapter 14. In this program, I've already taught the Eightfold Path multiple times, but now in chapter 14, these Brahma-viharas actually plug into the Eightfold Path. So the way that you cultivate this loving kindness, which is going to get rid of your anger, hatred, ill will, the frustration, the agitation, the irritation, the annoyance, even the slightest dislike, is you do loving kindness meditation. This is a different type of meditation than what we did today. Instead, it's a meditation that essentially rewires your mind to be loving and kind. You kind of fill up your gas tank and you go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intention, speech, and actions. You actually can't meditate your way to the elimination of anger. You need the meditation. That's going to cultivate your mind and kind of fill up your gas tank. But where the real transformation is happening is when you go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions, and you're loving and kind with the people around you. And that's where the Eightfold Path comes in. That's why you need to understand that. So with the loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life, the other part of this that you'll find in the Eightfold Path is that you're practicing mindfulness or awareness of mind. This is just kind of looking over your mind. And anytime you see anger, bitterness, or hostility coming up, you need to spot that with your mindfulness. And then you need to apply what's called right effort to eliminate that hostility, that unwholesome quality out of the mind, and cultivate the wholesome quality. You need to apply the effort to bring in this loving kindness. So let's just say, for example, you're at the airport. You're so excited to go on this trip. Maybe you're going to Thailand, right? And you know that they have mango and sticky rice, and they have massages, and they have elephants to play with. Oh man, you just can't wait to get there. You're so excited. And you're going to check in, and you only have an hour before your flight takes off. And you're checking in at the ticket counter, and the person behind the ticket counter says, "Hey, I'm so sorry. Your flight's not leaving for 3 hours. You can't check in yet." If you notice the anger starting to come up because your flight's delayed, it's not the airline company that's causing that. It's your own mind craving. You're craving and longing, yearning. I want every single airplane to take off on time. That's the permanence that the mind's craving. And that's not the world that you live in. You live in an impermanent world. There's going to be maintenance issues, weather issues. There's going to be crew issues. Something's going to happen if you travel enough that your plane's going to be delayed. You're never going to be in a situation where every single plane is on time. So when you notice that anger coming up, if you've been doing loving kindness meditation to cultivate loving kindness, now you know with your mindfulness that that anger is coming, and it'll normally be a bodily sensation first, where you have tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat in the face, pressure in the skull. You would like to apply effort to cut that off and let it go. And now be loving and kind to the person at the ticket counter. "Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you letting me know that. I did not realize that. So I can come back in about 30 minutes and I can check in? Okay, great. Thank you so much. By the way, do you have a recommendation for a restaurant anywhere nearby? I was thinking about getting some food," right? Maybe you have a little conversation with this person. Who knows, right? Maybe you can make a friend here, right? So this is how you would like to function in moving the mind closer and closer to this enlightened mental state, where eventually you'll get to the point where the anger doesn't even arise, that it's physically impossible for the anger to even arise. But in this transformational period, this phase of your life, you're going to need to have mindfulness to watch over your mind. And anytime you see anger arising, you apply the effort to eliminate that out of the mind, and then apply the effort to bring in the loving kindness. That's the antidote. That's the prescription for your symptom of anger, hatred, and ill will. Then there's something called compassion. Compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others. On the one side of this, someone would be indifferent, where they could care less about what's happening to other people. Maybe they see somebody that's homeless and they're like, "I don't care. It's not my friend. It's not my family." Or you could be on the other side of that, where you have worry and anxiety. "Oh my gosh, those kids don't have food. What are they going to eat?" And now at nighttime, you're laying in bed, ruminating and thinking about those children you saw on the street that didn't have food, right? And now you're worried about that. So on two opposite sides here, where you're indifferent or you have worry and anxiety, your mind's not peaceful. You're not joyful. So the Buddha is teaching you to bring your mind to the middle, where there's compassion. What compassion is the concern for the misfortune of others. Whether you choose to do something about that or not, that's a whole nother situation. That's a whole nother topic. That's a different decision. But what the Buddha is teaching you to do is have your mind permeating with this compassion, where you have concern for the misfortune of others. If you're worried and having anxiety, you see all the problems. But if you have concern, you'll understand the solution to those problems. That you don't just see the problems, but you know the solution. And the solution to anyone's problem is they need to cultivate wisdom and make different decisions. Then they will experience different results. You can't feed somebody out of hunger. If somebody's hungry and they're on the street, living on the street, and they're hungry, you can't feed them out of hunger. Because whatever led to them being in that situation, there are certain decisions that they made. And now, in order for them to get out of that situation, they're going to need to cultivate wisdom and make different decisions so that they can get out of that. If they're dependent on you for food, that means when you go away, they can't eat. So you can't feed someone out of hunger. They need to cultivate wisdom of how to acquire food for themselves. We might provide them food for a period of time in order to help them, but that's a different discussion. That's not part of the compassion. What the compassion is where you have concern for the misfortune of others. It's not necessarily whether you take the action to do it or not. So let me give you an example so you can understand this. So I used to ride a motorbike. And when I would ride a motorbike, oftentimes I would see people get in accidents. And because I have a little bit of first aid skills, I would pull over, put my kickstand down and go check and make sure I could help the person. Maybe put their motorbike up, take it, make sure it's taken care of, take care of the person, see if they need an ambulance or what have you. So this is something that I would do in certain situations. But there was one time that I was on my way home and my son had called me and he said, "Hey, Dad, I'm at home all by myself. There's no food here. It's 2 p.m. and I haven't had any food. Can you bring me some food?" And I said, "Oh, sure. I didn't realize you didn't have any food. What would you like?" Well, of course, he wanted pizza, right? That's what he would like. He wanted pizza. So I ordered a pizza, went and picked up the pizza, and I'm driving home on the motorbike to bring him his pizza. Well, in the process of going on the motorbike, I saw a motorbike accident, right? And I looked and I saw the motorbike accident and there were 2 or 3 people over there helping that person. I had compassion. I had concern for their misfortune. I looked and I was considering to stop, but they had 2 or 3 people helping them. And I was like, okay, they're taken care of. And now I just kept on going home to take the pizza to my son. So the compassion isn't whether you take action to do something or not. It's a mental state that you're cultivating to eliminate the indifference where you could care less about what's happening to people, and you're eliminating the worry and anxiety. So when I went home, I didn't think about that motorbike accident. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, were they okay? What happened? Did they go to the hospital? What happened? I wasn't worried because I was practicing compassion, where I was concerned for their misfortune, but I was also concerned about the misfortune of this person who was at home with no food too, right? So this person over here had individuals helping them. The person at home didn't have that. So I was choosing to apply generosity there, but I had compassion for both of these individual beings, right? So this compassion is a mental state that you're cultivating. And the way that you cultivate this is with your mindfulness and right effort. Your mindfulness is like a virus scanner on a computer, where a virus scanner on a computer is sitting in the background, watching over your hard drive. And if there's any virus that hits your hard drive, it will quarantine it and it will clean it up and get it off your hard drive. So your mindfulness is the same way. If you have this awareness of mind that's watching over your mind, whenever you see indifference or whenever you see worry and anxiety, with your mindfulness, you see that and you notice that that's the symptom, but now you apply the prescription. You bring in the compassion, where instead of allowing your mind to have worry or anxiety or indifference, you bring the mind to the middle where there's concern for the misfortune of others. And if you do this enough and you cultivate this enough, it'll just always be in the mind. It'll just always be permeating in the mind. Right now, there might be certain situations where you need to apply effort to get the compassion to be in the mind. But over time, you'll bring it to full growth, full perfection, full development, where you'll fully have permeating compassion in your mind. And that's then where the mind is fully developed with the compassion. And you won't have to apply the effort to bring the compassion into the mind because it's already there. It's always present. So that's what you would like to do with all of these mental states that I'm talking about, is you would like to get to the point where they're just always present in the mind. Now, there's something else that the Buddha teaches you related to these two, loving kindness and compassion, that will help you cultivate these in the mind. It's a certain understanding about how the world's constructed. The Buddha teaches the cycle of rebirth, how all of us have had multiple lives in the past. This is something that you can independently verify. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence of that. If you actually work closer with the teachings of the Buddha, you can actually come to understand how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth, that it's true, because you're never interested in believing any of these teachings. Because with belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it because someone convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. But instead, you need to cultivate wisdom and see the truth. So I have 17 different criteria of how you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth. So as you verify the cycle of rebirth, one of the things that the Buddha teaches you is that we have all been multiple beings in the past, countless beings in the past. And because we've had so many countless lives, it would be impossible for us to encounter a being that hasn't previously been our mother, father, brother, sister, son, daughter, or some other relative, right? So maybe when we were lizards, you and I were brothers, right? Or maybe when we were mosquitoes, maybe you were my grandmother, right? Or something like this. Like we've all been related at some point in our past because there's been so many countless existences. So when you're getting ready to slap that mosquito on your arm, that's like grandma. You're not interested in killing grandma. So the Buddha teaches you to have loving kindness and compassion for all beings, right? So you would like to start viewing other beings as your family. Instead of carrying around that perception in your mind that people are a stranger, instead think about them as your beings, or I'm sorry, your family, that these have been your family in previous lives. Here in Thailand, if you go out and you understand Thai and Thai language, they actually refer to people in that way. If you go into a restaurant and there's an elderly lady sitting at the cashier, even though you've never met this person ever before, you would refer to her as grandma. Or the food server who's serving you, it might be little brother, little sister, or big brother, big sister. Even though you've never met them before, when you're talking in Thai, you use the same exact words that you would refer to your family as, you would refer to these people in the same way. Maybe you have a taxi driver. Maybe there's a man who's driving your taxi or a woman who's driving your taxi. You might call her uncle or call him uncle and maybe her aunt, right? So even though your culture doesn't have that, perhaps, you can be thinking that when you're interacting with people in the public. In order to help you to bring this loving kindness up in your mind, is think of them as your family members, that it's no longer a stranger, because that word kind of seems to imply that there should be some distance between us and there should be a barrier between us. But instead, we can just look at everybody as being family members, right? So this will help you to bring the loving kindness into your mind. The Buddha also talks about this compassion, and he says, because we've experienced so many previous lives in the past and so many past existences, anytime you see somebody experiencing some misfortune, that you've experienced that same misfortune in the past, whether it was in this life or some previous life. So if you see someone addicted to drugs and alcohol, instead of looking down on them and judging them for that, understand that you experienced that same misfortune, either in this life or some previous life. And this can help you to have concern for their misfortune, that you can put yourself in their shoes. Maybe you see somebody that's lacking resources, that's in famine or poverty or something like that. Instead of looking down on those people, maybe you think of them as your family, and you think about how you maybe have experienced that same thing in this life or some previous life. And this will help you to have the compassion for them, right? Maybe you're at a different point in your life at this point, but those people in their life, they're at that point. And instead of looking down on them, we can just have concern for their misfortune. But understand that they are responsible for their own life. They are responsible to be able to make decisions for themselves, but we can surely have compassion for them, right? They're responsible for their own happiness, their own peacefulness. We can't feed somebody out of hunger, but we can at least have compassion for them, which is concern for their misfortune. So do you guys have questions on loving kindness or compassion? Anything you'd like to ask? Let me see if we have any questions online here. Hello to everyone online. Okay, I don't see any questions yet. Okay, so, it looks like Vipov has a question. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Teacher David. I had a question on how cultivate compassion. You said that you may not have compassion ways coming out, but you need to cultivate it. So you cultivate compassion. Loving kindness is done through kind of the meditation and intention. You cultivate compassion.
Yeah, all of these mental states, except for loving kindness, the way that you have to be able to do this is you watch over the mind with your mindfulness. And anytime you see the unwholesome qualities, you apply right effort to eliminate that out of the mind. And then you apply right effort to cultivate the wholesome quality, whether it's loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, or equanimity. Loving kindness has the meditation and then practicing through your intention, speech, and actions to be loving and kind. But all of these, you're watching over the mind with mindfulness. You're understanding the symptoms of what the symptoms of the unwholesome qualities are. And then you're applying the effort to eliminate those and bring in the wholesome quality.
So suppose you were going down the street and you see like a beggar. You should basically, instead of having indifference, then you should just try to say, be compassionate for them, like cultivate compassion, saying, okay, he might have some misfortune because, he's not able to get food for themselves, and you should have compassion for them.
Right. Where you see your mind being indifferent in that situation, you cut that indifference off, not allowing the mind to experience that. And now you apply the effort to bring in compassion and have concern for their misfortune.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You have a question, sir? Oh, no? Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions. Okay. So now we'll go to sympathetic joy and equanimity. What sympathetic joy is joy for others' success, even if you didn't contribute to it. This is the opposite of jealousy or envy. If you have jealousy or envy, this is because the mind has craving, desire, attachment. Like if your neighbor gets a brand new car and you're jealous or envious of that, that's because you're having a craving to have that car or something better, right? It's like there's this measuring and comparing in your mind. You want to be above them. Instead, you can have just joy for their success because it's no fun walking around with jealousy or envy. Or say you're at work and there's a new position that opens up and you apply for this new position. It's a great salary, great job title, great office, great responsibilities. But some of your other coworkers, they apply for it too, and they get the job instead of you. You might be jealous or envious there. That's because of your craving, your desire, your attachment. And now it's going to plague your mind and your ability to be successful. Because now when you're in a business meeting with that person, and maybe there's 3, 4, 5, or 6 other people in there, your jealousy and envy is going to come out in your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Or maybe you're bitter and harsh and hostile to this person, where they're not causing your jealousy. Your jealousy is being caused by your own mind. But now it's going to plague you from being able to have a successful career because these other 4, 5, 6 people in the meeting, they see how you're interacting and it's not very professional. So now 6 months from now, a year from now, when a new position opens up and you're interested in applying for that one, you don't get that position either because you haven't been performing professionally. And maybe that position is actually better than the initial position, right? And you could have gotten that one if you would have just maintained your sympathetic joy, which is joy for their success, even if you didn't contribute to it. Maybe somebody's going on vacation and you've always been wanting to go to this place on vacation, but somebody else is going instead of you, right? You might be jealous or envious. So what you would like to do is bring in this joy for others' success. So you need your mindfulness to watch over the mind. And whenever you see envy or jealousy, that's the symptom. And now you apply right effort to bring in the sympathetic joy. And it's going to be challenging for you when this person's walking around the office, they're gloating about how they got the new job and they're showing off and they're all puffed up and, they're so conceited perhaps about the job that they got. If that's the way they function, that's on them. That's their choice and it's affecting them. You don't have to allow it to affect your mind. You can just smile and just be joyful for their success. You don't necessarily agree with the way that they're handling it, but that's a whole nother thing. That's on them. They're going to experience the results of that. And now you just have joy for their success. Hey, congratulations, Bob. I know you've been really interested in that position. I'm pleased that you got it. Or, hey, that's going to be really great for your family, Susie. Congratulations. That's really great for you, right? And if that's all you can say, fine. This isn't a feeling. This is a mental state. A feeling arises, it changes, and it fades away. So don't look for any kind of feeling of joy for their success. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking to cultivate the mental state where you can have joy for their success, even though you didn't contribute to it. So it's unconditional joy. They are experiencing some kind of certain fortune, right? compassion is with misfortune. Here with the sympathetic joy, they're experiencing some fortunate situation, and you need to be able to have joy for their fortunate situation. And the Buddha teaches you something here that helps you too. And not only does he say any misfortune that you see someone experiencing, you've already experienced that in this life or some previous life, but he's saying even a fortunate thing, that when you see somebody experiencing something fortunate, you've already experienced that in this life or some previous life. So if you see some famous celebrity that's out there and you're thinking, oh, you're so jealous about their fame and their celebrity status, well, you've already experienced that. Either in this life or some previous life, you've already experienced that. So no need to be jealous because you've already experienced it. This is their opportunity to experience that. You already had your experience to experience that. So this is helping you to be able to cultivate the sympathetic joy for their success, even though you didn't contribute to it. The next one is equanimity. There's two pieces to this. There's mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. That's one component. But then there's this other component of treating all beings equally. I'm going to explain both sides to this. The calmness, the composure, the evenness of temper, especially in such difficult situations. This is going to help you to make wise decisions, because if you allow your mind to be shaken up, you're going to make unwise decisions, and it's going to produce unwholesome results. So the Buddha is teaching you to maintain your calmness and composure. The reason why you wouldn't have calmness and composure is because of a craving for permanence. So for example, let's just say you get a phone call and somebody tells you, hey, your mom's been in a terrible car accident. She's in the back of an ambulance being rushed to the hospital. If you get all shaken up in that situation, that's not your love. That's your craving for permanence. You're craving mom to be permanently healthy. And it's just not possible. Mom, just like all the rest of us, we were born, we experience sickness, aging, death. All of us are going to experience this. This body cannot be permanently healthy. But that's what the mind craves in the unenlightened state. So when your mom is experiencing some misfortune, some kind of accident that she's had, your mind could easily be shaken up in that situation if you have a craving, desire, attachment for your mom to be permanently healthy, where it's just not possible because we live in an impermanent world. You might grab your car keys, rush across town, driving like a maniac to hurry up and get to the hospital. And now you might have actually gotten in a car accident yourself. How are you helping mom by being in a car accident? Or at the very least, you're going to show up to the hospital with your mind all shaken up. And when the doctors and nurses are talking to you to try to help your mom, and you're going to need to make some decisions to be able to help your mom, you can't understand what the nurses are even saying, what the doctors are even saying. So you're not helping anybody by rushing to the hospital and getting there 5 or 10 minutes earlier. You can just take your time and just know that, hey, she's in the best hands possible. Mom was in a terrible car accident. That's unfortunate. But you know what? She's in the back of an ambulance with emergency medical technicians. This is perfect. Thank goodness that's where she's at. She's about to arrive to the hospital with sophisticated equipment and doctors and nurses that can take care of her. Outstanding. Now, let me just take my time and gradually make my way to the hospital so that when I show up, I can talk to the doctors and nurses and start making some decisions to help her. This is why you would like to have equanimity. So wherever you see your mind isn't having equanimity, your mindfulness is what's going to help you. Where you see your mind shaken up, you need to cut that off and bring in the calmness and composure. So let's just say you get off the phone and you see your mind's all shaken up. Well, maybe you need to pause for a second. Don't just rush out the door. You know, an extra 3 minutes, an extra 5 minutes isn't going to change anything for mom. She's in the best hands that she could be in. Just take your time. Maybe you close your eyes. Maybe you take a couple nice deep breaths. You calm the mind down. Now you make your way to the hospital with your equanimity, because that's what's going to help you and that's what's going to help mom. So the one part of this is calmness and composure, evenness of temper, especially in difficult situations. This other part is treating everyone impartially, treating everyone equally. If you notice, the root word here of equanimity is equal. You would like to treat everybody equally. So let's just say that you have a best friend at work. Maybe you work with 8 people and there's this one coworker. They're your best friend. You really get along with this person really well. And now you're at lunch and you're by yourself and you ended up buying a milkshake for your friend back at the office, and you bring back that milkshake for your one friend. Well, the other 7 coworkers, they're going to see that because of their craving. They're going to get jealous. They're going to get envious. And when they experience that painful feeling, they don't realize it's coming from their own mind, and their own mind is producing that. They're going to attribute that painful feeling of jealousy to you. And now what they're going to do is they're either going to push you away, they're going to be bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're going to start putting their expectations on you and trying to pressure you to do things their way. So not only is the Buddha teaching you how to protect your mind and get to peace and joy, but he's teaching you how to navigate the world full of unenlightened beings so that you can experience peace and joy. Because all these unenlightened beings, and they're lacking wisdom, they don't understand that it's their own mind that's causing these feelings. So by you treating everyone equally, now you can experience improved results. So if you're going to bring back a milkshake for that one friend, you need to bring back one for everybody, right? And if you can't afford it, then just don't do it. Or let's just say you're in a big company. Let's just say you have 300 employees. You can't bring back bagels or donuts for 300 employees. You can't afford that, right? So what you do is maybe you bring back 20 bagels, you put it in the conference room, and you send out an email to the whole company and say, hey, I brought back bagels, or I brought bagels in this morning for breakfast. There's 20 bagels in there. This was for all of you guys. Feel free to go to the conference room and get a bagel. Well, now if I'm the 21st person and I'm sitting there writing an email and I didn't go to the conference room and I'm spending time writing this email instead, and then finally I go to the conference room and I'm the 21st person, well, then I can see that that was my decision. I chose to write that email and I didn't get the bagel because it was my choice. But you practiced generosity with everybody. You sent out an email inviting everybody to be able to get a bagel, right? So this is how you treat everyone equally. So if you're an employer, if you're a boss, if you're at some point going to be a parent, or if you are a parent, you would like to treat everybody equally. Whether it's your employees, whether it's your children, you like to treat everybody equally. For a long time when I was growing up as a child, when I would go to my grandmother's house, if it was my sister's birthday, my grandmother would have a gift for me too. Or if it was my birthday, she would have a gift for my sister too, right? So that there wasn't any jealousy or envy. But then eventually, when we got to about 12 years old, she stopped doing that because we also needed to learn how to have impermanence, that, hey, this is sympathetic joy. I can have joy for my sister's success, that it's her birthday and she's gotten a gift. But early in life, we didn't have that wisdom. So my grandmother was doing this in order to help our ability to not have jealousy, because once your mind gets wired that way, it's going to stay that way unless you apply teachings and techniques to be able to transform it, right? So this is the type of things that you can do with children or with your employees or with your coworkers, that you just treat everyone equally. If you're going to invite your neighbors over for a party, invite everybody, right? So everybody gets an invitation. This will help you, and it'll help you to have healthy, sustaining relationships. So wherever you see your mind's not doing these things, with your mindfulness, you would like to apply right effort. This is going to eliminate your restlessness, your worry, your anxiety, your overactive mind. It's going to eliminate arrogance and pride and ego, because that's what the mind does when you're not treating people equally. There's conceit in there where you're putting yourself above or below people, or you're measuring other people and putting them above and below. You would like to treat everybody equally. If you see somebody outside that's maybe like the king or the queen of Thailand walking down the street, or you see someone sweeping the streets, you'd like to treat everybody equally. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Good morning. Nice to see you. Right? This is part of why your mind gets to peacefulness, is because if you're measuring and comparing people and you're trying to figure out who's above you and who's below you, that's a burden to the mind. And now you've got to figure out, how do I treat this person versus how do I treat that person? Because you look down on them. But if you just treat everybody equally, you treat everybody impartially, your mind doesn't have to do that work. You just treat everybody the same, no matter who they are, the king or the queen of Thailand or someone sweeping the streets. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Good morning. Nice to see you. And now your mind can be at ease because you just treat everybody peacefully, and you don't have to burden it with trying to figure out if this person is above you or below you. So any questions on sympathetic joy or equanimity? Remember, you can ask your questions here with the microphones, or online you can put it into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom. Okay. I don't see any questions. So these are the Brahma-viharas, these 4 healthy mental states: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. This is what you'd like to cultivate in order to eliminate these symptoms of the mind, applying the prescription. In this chapter 14, I also talk about generosity. Generosity is not part of the Brahma-viharas, but it's part of the teachings of the Buddha. He taught generosity because generosity is eliminating the underlying cause that is producing all these symptoms, that there's craving, desire, attachment in the mind, where the mind's longing, yearning, and craving permanence. It's holding on to things and being somewhat selfish. So you're going to need to cultivate the wholesome quality of generosity, where you're giving and sharing without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, effort, energy, and resources. This is going to train your mind to let go. So you're going to need to practice generosity with the people around you. So this is going to help you to now experience more peace and more joy. Because if your mind has craving, desire, attachment, you probably have some selfishness in your mind, whether it's about your food or your money or your clothes. My phone, my clothes, my money, my food, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, mine, 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 mine. That's what craving, desire, attachment does. But what generosity does is it trains your mind to be joyful and giving and sharing with other people. And if you're noticing that you have certain things that your mind becomes discontent with, you would like to practice the sharing of that thing, and that's going to help your mind to let go. So for example, if you get your clothes out of the washing machine and they're ripped and torn, and you notice that your mind's discontent there, that's because you're craving your clothes to be permanent. In reality, your clothes are not permanent. So you can start sharing your clothes. You can maybe give away some of them to someone else who could use them. Or say you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here and you get sad and frustrated when it's down here. You're attached to your money. You're craving your money to be permanent. You would like to be able to give and share with others, but you need to do this from the middle way. If you were sharing excessively, you're not going to have the resources that you need to sustain your life. But if you're never sharing, your mind's going to be quite selfish. So you need to find the middle here where you can give and share with the people around you. And what you're going to notice is frequency is more important than the amount. So if it was a matter of $500 once a year that you're going to give to a children's orphanage, or $1 a day, you'll find that the $1 a day is actually more impactful to your mind. So you'd like to be able to let go more frequently. This is why here in Thailand, pretty much everywhere you go, there's like donation boxes in restaurants and department stores and grocery stores. There's donation boxes everywhere, because let's just say you're going to give 100 baht in a day. Well, if you give 10 baht to this one and 20 baht to that one and 10 baht to this one and 20 baht to that one, your mind's having to let go more frequently during the day. And this is actually better for your mind and training your mind. So you would like to give and share with the people around you, but doing it from the middle way, so you're not overextending yourself and you have what you need, but also you're not on the other side where you're never sharing, because your mind's going to be quite selfish. And you'd like to cultivate this generosity in the mind, where every single day you're practicing generosity. The Buddha taught this to be a daily practice, where you're sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources. And you can do this where it's not very impactful to your day. Like say you're going to the market and you're buying some mangoes, toss some bananas in there. Takes you an extra 30 seconds or a minute, and now you give those away to your neighbor. Or say you're going into a store and there's someone behind you. Well, just hold the door for them. It'll take you an extra 10 seconds to hold the door. But remember, you need to do this without any expectation of anything in return. If you're standing there expecting a thank you and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated. You'll be annoyed. You're causing that yourself because you're not practicing pure generosity. Now, what the mind's doing there is it's craving permanence. Everybody who walks through this door has to say thank you. And I can only be happy if everybody says thank you. Well, you're setting yourself up. You're sabotaging your ability to be happy because of impermanence. Not everybody's going to say thank you. Maybe when you walk through the door, you say thank you, but not everybody does. That's the impermanent nature of the world. So we're not talking about what's wise or unwise here. We're just talking about what's causing your discontentedness. And it's the expectation that everybody needs to say thank you. And in that situation, you're not practicing pure generosity yet because you have an expectation. You're wanting something from this person. So you need to get to the point where you're practicing generosity with just one reason. which is to enhance the quality of your mind. That's the reason why you're practicing generosity, not because you want something from this person. You need to get to the point where you don't even want a thank you, that you understand that they might say thank you, but you're not expecting it. You're not longing, yearning for it, because some people will say thank you and some will not. So this is a practice that you're going to need to cultivate. It's a mental quality to cultivate in the mind, and you're going to need to apply the effort to bring this into your mind. And this is going to help you to transform your mind. Okay. All right. So I don't see any questions anywhere. So I'm going to end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the path. Next week, we're going to be in chapter 15 of this book, which is titled True Love, Love Without Attachment. This is where I'm going to go in and help you to understand what true love is. Because if you're falling in love and out of love with people, or you think love is hurtful and it's painful, you're not understanding love yet. And that means that if you're not practicing true love, you're not going to experience true love. And this is going to strain on your relationships. But if you're understanding what true love is and you practice it more and more, then you'll experience true love in your day-to-day life. So I'm going to be teaching that next week. Okay. So enjoy whatever you do for the rest of your day. And perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Okay. Take care and be well. Sawadee-khap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.